Hi everybody, how are you doing? We're going to have a mini lesson today on comparatives, short and long adjectives. Let's look at the apple. Let's describe the apple. We can say different sentences with adjectives. For example, the apple is red, the apple is round, it is a shiny apple, it is a big red apple, the apple is red and round. What I did here is I described one object, but my question is, what happens when I want to compare two objects? I want to say how they are the same or how they are different, and I want to know what happens to the adjective. So, what happens to the adjective when we want to compare between two things? Let's look at the adjectives we have here. We have big, slow, we have small and fast and expensive and dangerous. These adjectives are a bit different. Small, slow, fast, big are short adjectives, and expensive and dangerous are long adjectives. You can tell the difference by the syllables they have. Expensive, 3 syllables. Dangerous, 3 syllables. Fast, 1 syllable. Slow, 1 syllable. So let's take a closer look at short adjectives. Here is an example of an ant and a whale, and I want to compare them. It's not like the first picture where we described the apple and we didn't compare anything. We just described one thing. But here we want to say, for example, that the ant is smaller than the whale. We're comparing. So the adjective small changes. We add er and then we add than. Okay, that's the sign, that's the rule to when we compare two things with a short adjective. Small is a short adjective. We add er, then we get smaller than. Let's look at some spelling rules because there are some things that we have to take into consideration when we spell the words. For example, nice has E at the end, and we know we add R because we already have the E. שם התואר מסתיים באות E ומוסיפים לו R. Busy ends with a Y. There are many adjectives that end with a Y, but you have to check the letter that comes before the Y. If it's a regular letter and not a vowel, then you take off the Y and put an I and then add ER. שם תואר שמסתיים באות Y ולפניה אות רגילה, יש להשמיט את ה-Y ולכתוב במקומה I ואז להוסיף ER. Here are different examples of changes to the adjective. Big, thin, fat, and slim. We doubled the letter G and N and T and M in these words. The question is, how do we know when to double the letters? So here are the conditions. התנאים. יש שני תנאים, 2 conditions, להכפיל אות אחרונה. The first condition is כאשר יש לה תואר עברה אחת. As we said before, big has 1 syllable. Dangerous, for example, has 3. So we need 1 syllable. And then you check from the end of the adjective the letters. What do you do? אתם בודקים מסוף התואר את סוגי האותיות. Big, it finishes with a G, which is a regular letter, consonant, and before it there's a vowel, and before that there's a consonant. אות רגילה, אות ניקוד, אות רגילה. אות רגילה, אות ניקוד, אות רגילה. אות רגילה, אות ניקוד, אות רגילה. You have to check from the end and not from the beginning. So if you have these 2 conditions, then you double the last letter. Here's a picture of 2 women. The woman on the right is fatter than the woman on the left. So you can see that I doubled the T here when I wrote my comparison sentence. And of course I didn't forget than. The woman on the right is heavier than the woman on the left. So at the beginning, the adjective heavy ended with a Y. But now when I compare, I have to take off the Y and add IER. So here's a list of a few adjectives that have one or two syllables, up to two. Take a look at the blue here. Big, red, thin, hot. These are the words that we double the letters at the end of the adjective. Of course, there are more examples. I didn't put all the examples here. Let's go to the bottom and see the stars here. Here are adjectives that end with Y, and before the Y, there's a regular letter. We take off the Y and put an I and then add ER. And in the green box, we can see all the regular adjectives that we added ER. Let's not forget that we added than, just like in Hebrew. My house is bigger than your house. הבית שלי יותר גדול מהבית שלך. And we spell than with an A and not with an E like many people do. And that is a mistake because THEN, then, in Hebrew is the as. הכרתי אותו as. Okay, so it's a different word. So let's see what happens with long adjectives. Let's say I want to compare, okay, a word. Use a word that has a long adjective like dangerous, expensive. Okay, so let's take the word dangerous, the adjective dangerous. Now I want to say that a whale is more dangerous than an ant. So the long adjective, nothing happens to it. We do not add ER. We just add before it more, and after it we add than. Because if we would have added ER, then, you know, the adjective would have turned out to be a very long word. So we don't want it to be long. It's long enough. So we don't touch the long adjective. Here's another example. We are comparing math with physical education. Physical education is חינוך גופני, and somebody might say, you know, math is more difficult than physical education. So the word, the adjective is difficult. Because it's a long adjective, he has to add more before and than after. We do not add anything to difficult. More plus difficult plus than. Okay, so let's take a closer look and see here are examples of some long adjectives: difficult, exciting, interesting, beautiful, popular, expensive. You can hear that they are long because they have more than two syllables. And here are examples how they fit in a sentence. So you can say more difficult than, and at the same time you can say less difficult than. For example, somebody might think that math is less difficult than physical education. Okay, so you have to choose more or less according to the content of your sentence, whatever your opinion is. Okay, so now we are going to